All right, so we will start by setting up our project first. I do have my own work folder. You can set up something similar. Call this one the jump. As you guys can see, it's pretty empty right now. The only thing that I have here is what you're about to download or the likes of what you want instead of the models I have. And here's an asset list text file where you can see the name of the assets. And if you go onto a Quixel Megascan site and start searching by home 3D assets street, you will see similar assets that I'm using. Most of these are from here. And you'll have to download some of these and then put them in your geo folder. Then we can start processing. So I'm just going to save the HIP file here as the intro. This one we'll call it the environment. Project job, let's call it environment. 001. Well, it's not, we're not going to go with 100, so 01. Environment. Okay, save. All right, so let's build a road. Fairly simple. I'm just going to put a little geometry node here. Call it road. And I'm just going to go create these in advance actually. Well, no, it doesn't matter. Let's do it one by one. Let's go into the road. Road. Let's drop in a grid. My road was simple grid. And size is 10 by 50. I'm centered at 0.2, 0.20. That's fine. 0.2 actually. I had some floats, but doesn't matter. 11.32 and 20 rows, 10 columns. All right, so that's our road. And we're just going to lay down a UV texture. So we have like a orthographic UVs from y-axis. What does that mean? The difference is this. If I split the view by 2, here I have no UVs, and now I have UVs. But as you guys can see, it's fairly stretched because it's, conforming into a square. So I think I just did this. Here, 1.5. Just make it a bit bigger. So I found these proper values after I start playing with the textures. But if you have a similar texture, it's gonna kind of result in a better shape. So ideally, you're trying to keep as square as possible. So that will be something like this. 6 maybe. Okay. So the texture is not stretched. Let's go back to first view, and then I believe I simply copied this so it kind of stretches a bit more into the horizon, which you can do with a copy and transform node. And because my length is 50 here, I'm just going to offset this to minus 50. And 2 of them should duplicate our road. Okay, so we have a road. As simple as that. Now, I'm going to create the cones that I have in my scene. And you'll need those to be able to do the rigid bodies as well. Fairly simple, but effective. Let's dive inside. And this is where I'm using FBX import. Now, don't be fooled by saying skin import. This can be any FBX. Character import will work as well. I think it's going to look for animation file, but we're just trying to see the files from Megascan are coming in FBX, and there's no FBX model import HDA for some reason, or I couldn't find it. So this works. I guess it's still a skin, nevertheless. This model is called, let me see, it's got geo assets, other UHCGDG, I think it's this one. And I'm always using the LOD zeros here because these are not for, I'm not using it for games. So now if I look here, I have my cone. Great. Um, I size these. I recycle. Probably this part is not that important because bunch of transform nodes. So I'm just going to copy this from my other scene. I'm just going to explain what I did really. It's just that I'm positioning them, cleaning up some attributes. Uh, we don't even need actually those, but I'm not. When I pick, I'm not transferring those anyways. Actually, it's not even important. Um, so a little bit cleanup here. Just keeping the primitive name, not really important, not really used. And I'm packing this, so this is now ready to be, used in my opinion. I'm just copying this 3 times, different transforms, and 2 more times. So now this is not how I would do if I had thousands of these. I'll probably use like an instance method. But since there's only 6 of them, fairly simple geometry, this will suffice. We don't need to overcomplicate things. So this will become my cones. Okay. Now let's go and do our barrel. Where is my barrel? Okay. I guess I added the barrel a little bit late, but that's fine. Let's create the barrel now. Let's create a geometry node. Let's name it barrel. I'll try to keep these individual videos to maximum 1 hour. So I don't have a beeper here, so if it goes up, it's been only 6 minutes, 7 minutes, that's fine. Okay, let's do the barrel. Again, same thing, FBX import. This one is called Metal Rusty Terra. I think it's this one. Okay. Um, now, there's only one of them, so it's going to be, I'm going to just copy paste this position and attribute cleanup. Okay, so I think this should do before we pass this onto the bullet because this is also going to be simulated. And that's where roughly this place is. Cool. Let's put an null. Barrel. Now, it's not really the most efficient way I'm doing this because you'll see like, oh, I do some attribute delete, but then I find something else and I did that one as well. And then I found something else, which apparently I forgot that I did that as well. Let's do it right while I'm redoing this. So actually that makes more sense. All right, so here I already have the clean geo, so I don't need this anymore. In fact, I also don't need this because the model itself is coming as a packed geo. Okay. And because I think this guy's probably packing it, I'm not sure. And I'm putting a transform here, and then there's an attribute tilde here. So I actually don't need this attribute tilde as well because I am not sending this information down. So this is also not necessarily needed. So okay, here's a cleaner version of what I was supposed to do. That's all that we need. Just a little bit clear. Actually, there's also this, so which means this is +2. So if I do there +2, then I will not need this also. Oh, I did it wrong. Okay, and then now what I can do is actually, do we really need the +2 here? So if this was 5, wouldn't that work? No, I'm doing something wrong. Okay, let's leave it as it is. Because the pivot's done the correct way. So this is good enough. Let's not break it. Otherwise, we just have to zero the position, but not necessary. All right, let's move fast. And now we have the rails. So geo, rail. Let's dive inside. FBX skin again. Okay, this one is called a modular urban. I think this one. Hello, this here again. Okay, see, there's one of them, and I just simply move these around and then copied them. So if I look here, so what did I do? Again, this wasn't necessary because I was copying and pasting it regardless. Okay, L. So what do we have here? We have the railing. Just transforming it, unpacking it, copying it. Okay, just we have this here. This is good enough. Fine. Let's put a null. Let's say rails. Okay. Moving forward. Now we have concrete barriers on the other side. Actually, you know, I'm just going to copy paste this. Call it concrete barriers. The barriers are named street barrier. So let's check the folder. Street barrier. Which one? VKU. Okay, there's two of them. Let's get this guy. And I need to get the nodes that I use it for pulling it around. So what did I do? I, take it, position it, do a cleanup here, which we don't need, which we did before. Clean the attributes. There's more actually. We don't need the FBX and all that stuff as well. Max handle, I don't need. Actually, I think we don't need any of these. None of this actually is also needed. And I'm simply copying it using copy transform. And then when I do that, I'm unpacking them. I just removed some of them, and then I'm using point jitter just to offset some of these. Why point jitter? And because at this level they're packed, so I can simply position their points, move their points, and they'll just move around. And which axis is this? If I say on z-axis, just go slightly up and down, then I can kind of just offset them fairly easily. And then I just duplicate it again for the rest of the road. So our environment is coming together. That's great. Let's move forward. Let's put a null here. Out. Barrier. Okay, as simple as some of these sound, it's probably best not to skip because everything inside Houdini is super interconnected. Like majority of these nodes you see here can even live inside the simulation solvers in a sub solver. So it is indeed important. Like even though I'm not doing a simulation here, the pointer might come super useful in a simulation. With the question arising like, oh, okay, this is what I did. So why not use it here too? So I would suggest not to skip these. So let's drop it on the geometry node. Let's name this one container. Dive inside. Just gonna bring this here. Oh, this is not the right node. I'm copying pasting it from my other scene just so we don't do this very often. Like just repeat the same thing. Okay, null. And I'm doing everything one by one because in my tutorials I say this is what you'll get at the end. So I'll show you everything. Out container or crate actually. I don't know why I called it container. It's a crate. Okay. What do we have more now? Now we're missing the truck, the other barrier. We're missing the animated barrier. Okay, so I have an animated barrier. One second. I have the cones, rail, concrete barrier, truck. Oh, we're missing a truck. geometry. Okay, track. So this track is a USD file that I found, which I'm going to supply in the list as well. But just feel free to change anything, maybe a tank or anything. So just so we pointed out as well, you can use USD import to import USDs. Then we go here. This one is called tanker truck USDZ. No, I believe I export this out from Blender. I'll have to double check. Where's the file? Here. Okay, so we have a truck, and this model is 100 times bigger than we would like. Maya to Houdini scale, I suppose. Okay, and we'll assign the materials later. Now this one is animated, so because it's animated and it's not deforming, it's animated at this level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy those keys because I'm not going to hand key them. I'll put this guy here. But that's essentially what I did. And if you want to see the keys, Shift, middle mouse click, space G, and you'll see all the keys here. There is something happening. Yes, there is some keys here. And the frame range for this renders were 1 to 140. First time I didn't work from 1000. And it just moves forward and then kind of comes to a stop. It's pretty much sliding on the z-axis. So if you guys can see, that's it. That's all it's doing. All right. Now there is one more node, which is the animated barrier. Let's put a geometry node here. Call it animated barrier. Let's dive inside. FBX import. Where is FBX import? And this one is called street barrier again. But it's the other one. It's the VJX one, I believe. No, it's the same one. So I guess we never use the VJX. Okay, and again, clean up. And this one is animated too. So now clearly I'm gonna get the node from the other scene, paste it. Just gonna update this FBX path because it's pointing to my internal folder probably. Okay. So it's like the truck is hitting it and sliding it. But doesn't really matter. It was there. I just built it just so it adds a little bit of some life into the scene. All right. Honestly, that's all there is geometry wise for the environment. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give these guys a color. Okay, gray. Put them in a network box. Call it ENV. Okay, let's move this also barrier. Let's create our camera now. So drop down a camera node, call it a render cam. And my current values are HD, focal length is 100, aperture is 38.9. I think that should do. In the transforms, it's 0.0307, 0.2552, 25 centimeters above the ground, 27.3484, 3.27 degrees on X, minus 360. Well, this could be 0 also, I guess. give or take. I don't know, maybe I was playing around. And Z is 0. So if I look here, should give me a very similar angle that we see in the renders here. Cool. Just gonna put this in a network box too. I like tidy scenes. All right, let's call these cameras. If you want to, put more cameras, just put them in here. Let's give it a color. Let's give this guy a color as well. Okay, so next thing we can do is that I can walk you through the shader connections for these nodes. So let's create a. So I'm doing this with Redshift, but same logic applies for anything. That could be cool to do. I think with Karma as well, definitely. Where's my Redshift tab? So let's create a RS light sun. I'll say. Just gonna save the scene again because we did put some work already. Let's look through the camera. What happens if I hit render now? Okay, actually, we're gonna put this guy here. Let's call it environment lights. And let's click on the Redshift button here. So it kind of creates our test ROPS, render view. Select the render camera. It should render all gray and shiny because the default shaders are all shiny with the current light. And let's fix the lighting as well. Okay, we're not getting anything. Just a solid white alpha. Oh, because we moved the cam. No. What is this camera one? Where does this come from? Render cam is here. Maybe it's the light direction. No, but that's also. Oh, okay. Let's maybe do that. All right, we're getting something now. Let's move here. Let's look through the render camera again. Okay, and not straight like this. Maybe something like this. Make a lot more interesting. Obviously, we're not going to work with the shaders because we already have shaders because we were using the we already have the textures because we were using the Megascan asset. So let's do the road because the road is the important one. So go to the material context and drop down. Where is my road shader? Let me find this on my other scene. Here. Drop down RS Material Builder. RS Material. No, Builder, sorry. RS Material Builder. Where are you? There you go. I'm going to call this road. Okay, so this one is a bit more complicated than the other ones because I want to create like a little wet surface. So I'm going to explain how I made this. First thing I did is drop down on RS material, which is, sorry, it's already here. We'll call it this floor. And the general values for floor is, sorry, actually, is this going to give me different settings? Yes. So I'll get rid of this guy. And I'm choosing plastic. I'm starting from plastic, although it makes no sense. And the pretty much everything here is standard because they're going to be driven by textures and shaders. So what do we do is first we drop an RS texture. Okay. And this one is using the Asphalt Rough VFY. And I downloaded the 4K ones. Again, you can do whatever you want with these. And then I call this albedo. And I have another albedo to make it a little bit more complex. And this one is called Asphalt Rough UFO. Again, the albedo layer. And now I'm going to mix these with RS color layer. Okay. So this one is my base, which is just like a bit more, I guess I can open it up. I'm going to use mplay to do that. Just a little bit more granular, I think, look to the shader. So this one. So it's like this close up asphalt shader. And let's select the RS color layer. Now layer 1 is going to be here. Layer 1 goes to layer 1 color. And now the mask value is quite low, 0.2. And now the output of this ends up becoming diffuse color. So now if I hit run, we didn't assign, yes, so let's assign it as well to road. Now if I render this, I don't think it's going to look as much because it's still super shiny. Let's continue. Okay. Now I have another map. Sorry, I'm using a noise, RS max on noise. Okay, and this one is, now I have to punch in the numbers. Actually, I'm just going to copy paste it because it makes no sense. This is just copied from the other scene. Now I'm using a scalar ramp here to drive the reflectivity. So what am I doing with that? I'm going to show now. So this one are a scalar ramp here, and I'm going to copy this because its ramp is pretty much settled, and then we can move the settled ramp around again. And then I have another one, which is here, but like going like this. Now these are going to drive reflection weight and reflection roughness. Okay, the one on the bottom. So actually we can do it that way, so kind of a bit more organized. This is going to drive reflection weight, and this is going to drive reflection roughness. So what happens now if I hit render? All right, so now we have these little wet areas. So not everything is super reflective. So now we're kind of like seeing the road, right? But what happens if I start moving this around? Then I'm getting all of a sudden a lot more reflective and wet areas. So that's basically just, if you guys see here, if I did that, more wet, less wet, so on and so forth. But I already decided how much wet I want in my scene, so I'm going to stick with this. This one is just saying how reflective you want it to be or not. It's just like a bunch of ramps. And if you want to see what they are doing, it's literally just plug this into surface, and then you're going to see what they're doing. These are just two ramps driving how reflective and how much roughness of my reflection is. Basically, that's pretty much it. But in order to get this keep going, we need to keep building our shader. So now I'm gonna bring in my normal map. So that's gonna be copy paste here. Let's call it normal. Okay, and that's gonna be, which one is this one? VFYHEP3 normal. And this one is this one, right? Yes. And then we're gonna put in a bump map. RS bump. I'm gonna plug this into texture input. Set it to object space normal. My value is 0.05. And this is now gonna go into the bump map of the output. So now if I hit render, let's see if it's gonna make a difference. The value might be too low. Yes, but we're gonna mix this with something else as well. Again, let's leave it like this. Now I'm gonna pull in another normal, which is called, I'm just gonna duplicate this, which is called Asphalt Rough UFO normal. So I got out from this folder, go to the other folder. I'm just mixing shaders here and find the normal again, accept. Now this, let's push this guy forward and let's pull in a RS color layer. Okay, so our first input is our first bump map, which is this one. Okay, now our second input is our second one, which goes down here. What am I doing here? This is object space normal, this is 0.2, and this merges into layer 1. Okay, so if I go to layer 1 mask, and my layer 1 mask is enabled and is set to 0.2, but the blend mode is set to add. Okay, now on third, here's what I'm doing. So you remember our scalar map from noise, which is this one, I believe. Which one was it? The one that goes into reflection weight, yes. Which is going to reflection weight. This one on the top. So if I plug this guy here, you'll see this. Now I'm gonna do RS invert on this. So if I plug this in here, you can directly see the result. And I'm gonna add a RS constant. Set the value to something like 0.6. Okay. And I'm gonna put a little RS add because I don't want complete blacks. Okay, so the invert, oops, doesn't matter. This guy goes here, this guy goes here. Now let's pull these a little bit to the right so we have some more space for work. And I'm gonna pull this guy down here. And then this one here. Actually, this can stay on top because it's gonna be less distractive. Okay, to the right more. All right, now this one, this output is gonna go into layer 2 as a color again. And this is gonna be set to multiply. But we need to enable this first. Multiply. Now I am going to, where was my color output? Here. This guy goes here. Okay, so this doesn't feel that reflective as much as it was showing for me. Let's play with the settings a little bit to make it a bit more reflective. But it may be because of the big flaming fire that I had in front. So that could be the reason, but I guess we can just try to make sure it's a bit more wet. Or was it because, is it too much? Maybe if we do like this. Well, our system is still working. It's just probably it's just reflecting the bright sky. And once we have the fire, I guess it's gonna work better. But we can continue. There is no, I believe I didn't do any displacement here. I tried, but I decided not to use it. I just would like it to be a bit more reflective, honestly, at the moment. Almost like this. But this might end up being way too much later on. So some really dry areas, some super wet areas. I guess for now it's fine. If it becomes super reflected later, we can, I think, always change it later on. Okay, let's stick to this now. A bit more. Okay. So what I'm not gonna do for this lesson is because we are 36 minutes in, and there's this many environment shaders. So I'm gonna copy paste these environment shaders, but they're using the same logic, and you can simply look how they're plugged. Fairly straightforward shaders, except the road one, because road one I want some areas to be wet, some areas to be dry. Every other environment shader is pretty standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste those and just plug them in. So if I select all my environment shaders, hit delete, paste, I just need to assign them now. Road is to road. Okay, cones is the cones. Barrel, I suppose, barrel. Track, we don't have the track yet because we're just doing the environment. Rail. Okay. Barrier maybe? Where's my rail shader? It's the barrier. Okay. Concrete. Barrier is barrier concrete. Our crate is container, which let's fix it now. Road concrete animated barrier is also barrier concrete. Oh, okay. It's already here. So let's hit render. Let's see what's going to happen. I need to update my shader texture paths, but okay. So this is what we have right now. It's with over exposed, but now we are ready for the. Well, we still have to bring in the car animated and put the shaders for the truck, but I think the truck shaders were not even shaders. I believe they were just regular colors, material gray, yes. So I'm just gonna copy paste these. Did I put those in so they come as well? Okay, so it's just there's like these three materials that we need to copy, which is just a gray, a chrome, and a car matte too. So I'm gonna just do that as well before I finish this video. Car matte too, right? So this one is not even used. No, this one is used. This one is used. And truck is using. I need a gray, chrome, and car matte too. Okay. Car matte 2. Where is my gray and chrome? Okay, what happens now if I render? Now this should be like super shiny, I believe. Should make the pick. Yeah, so fair enough. This is what it is. It's just a chrome shader, as you guys can see. And the way at least what I can show here is that you can have names of the objects. right? And at this stage, they have names. If I go to scene view, and if I go select by name attribute, and I just simply selected these gray areas, and then it gave me a list of objects, and then I said, hey, just use this material, telling you can either assign a complete material from the render object level, or you can dive inside and apply per primitive or per point using material swap and say, I want this group to choose render this guy. I want this group to do this group to do this, and this will do the same thing. Now let's look at it again, and before we finish, hit render again. Okay, yeah, to be honest, I think this road can use some displacement. Let's give it a little bit of a push. Last time I didn't do it, but I think it's worth it. So let's select our, kind of gives us an opportunity to do a little touch base on the uh, how do we do the displacements in Redshift as well. So in Redshift object level, go to tessellation and turn on tessellation and displacement. Okay, we need to tessellate and displace in order to be able to displace an object. Now, if you go into the shader, which is row shader, now I can use that noise to kind of give a little displacement too, but I already have this displacement. But let's find the correct one from the correct folder, because it's pointing to my downloads folder. Where is my project folder? Project folder is here, this one. Let's go into Geo, Assets, Asphalt Rough, UFO here, and I believe this is pulling the displacement. Let's pull the displacement here. There's another one, which is the other one. Basically, I'm doing the normals that I did, normal workflow I did for this guy, these two, but the displacement textures instead. This one is using Asphalt Rough VFH. So if I go to projects, jump, geometry folder, assets folder, Asphalt Rough VFY here, and displacement EXR, and this guy goes in here. So what do I do here? I'm adding it again. And if I want to see actually what I'm doing, I guess I want this to be my displacement. Okay, so there's a map here. I want this to be my displacement. Basically, that's what we're telling. So if I go like this, and now plug the color back in, okay, and then maybe displacement to displacement, that should do something. Okay, hit render. That's the displacement amount, so it's not as much. Let's make this 10 times more. Let's see what's going to happen. Yeah, so that's a bit too much. 0.025, let's do 0.1. Now, the more you allow for displacement to work, the more it will subdivide. So how do we do that? We can go and select the object node, and on the Redshift tessellation, you can increase your maximum subdivisions. It should give you, depending on the size of your EXRs or displacement map, it should give you more fidelity on when you want to do displacement. Now, if I do a little compare, you can see that our road is risen a bit more. But for now, I'm not gonna enable this because I haven't spent good enough time on these maps to make them work a bit better. But this is eventually how you do it. So just gonna turn that off, and I'm gonna disconnect that as well just in case. I actually don't know if it does anything, but in case if I turn this on by accident, which I don't. All right, so this concludes our first lesson. Hopefully in the next one, we will put our camera in and, put our car, talk a little bit about the car. The car part is obviously the very important part. And then right after that, we'll plug in our lights where they're supposed to be, do a couple tests so we can start doing our proper effects that all the particles and the pyro and everything. So thanks for watching this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.